welcome to another edition of the DizzyDrops Dropcast. That's the Honker Down Dropcast to you, everybody out there. Welcome in. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about some tips and tricks that you want to do in your blind while you're hunting, or outside the blind while you're hunting. We're going to go over blind brushing. We're going to go over making sure your face is covered, skin covered, keeping your reflections down and your spread, and then we'll talk a little bit about our sponsors here tonight. In here tonight with me is Doc, Zach Hessler, and Zach. We want to start it off with a little blind brushing out there. Some of you may not know what it means to brush your blind, but we do a lot of lay down blinds where where we go. We don't have the luxury of a pit or a blind in a lot of places that we go.
Well, we do, just in certain places.
In certain places, but like when we do public land, the public land that we hunt on, you cannot use, or you can't use an affixed blind in there. Yep. So therefore we have to take in our own lay down blinds. And Zach, when you're brushing a blind down, or brushing it up, I guess we could call it, you can never use enough material to brush this blind, because you and I have talked about this a lot in the field, that just the smallest spot they can tell.
Yep, it's kind of crazy, just with them being able to print that 2D image inside their head, of just because of their eyes on both sides, and they only see a 2D image, but they're able to picture out things that don't belong so well. And it's just insane on how these types of birds can do that. Everyone thinks they're just some stupid bird, but actually they're pretty smart, and that's why it's a trick to hunt them sometimes.
Well, and just to kind of piggyback off what you just said, camo's camo. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're not telling you not to have camo blinds, camo, whatever. But when it comes to the terrain that you are in,
break up your camo too.
Right. You want to break up your camo, but when it comes down to the terrain that you're in, you want to make sure that it is, that they can't fly over the top of you and tell, hey, that's not supposed to be there. And, we've talked about that with, we've hunted out of log piles, wood piles, stuff like that. Yep. Something that they're used to seeing when they fly over that area. If they're flying over, like Zach said, they're not stupid birds. They're going to be like, hey, wait a minute, that don't look right. That wasn't there. So it's important to brush up your blind right correctly. The material that you use. I mean, if you're in a cornfield, you don't want to use hay or
I think it's called
switchgrass.
Yeah, blind grass is what it's locally known as. If you're hunting a cornfield, you want to strictly use corn stalks, the other pieces from when they cut the corn and stuff like that. Or if you're going to be hunting along a ridge line next to a cornfield, you'd be better off using like tumbleweeds, weeds, and stuff like that. Look like a patch of weeds, pretty much, that has always been there. And that also goes good for if you're hunting next to a fence and you want to set your decoys up a little, about 20 yards out away from you. It works really good out there. But I mean, other than that, you just really want to use what you have in your terrain to blind up, or brush up, not blind up, to brush up your blind, and it'll tremendously help birds wanting in that spot and how you want them to come in.
Well, and it's natural. Any goose hunter will tell you that the best decoy is the real thing. Same thing when it comes down to where your blind is. You want to make sure that blind blends in with that terrain, and that it goes with that terrain, because it's very important to make sure that is brushed up properly. Shadows. Let's talk a little bit about shadows when it comes to your lay down blinds and stuff like that.
Shadows, kind of piggybacking off of properly brushing your blinds. Shadows, if you do not properly brush your blind, you will have huge shadows, especially early morning and late at night, which here in western Nebraska is when the birds are flying, and that's when we definitely don't want shadows. And we have a lot of corn here. We are known as the corn state.
Cornhusker state.
Yeah, the Cornhusker state. You really want to when you finish brushing up your blind, get some huge piles piled up around your blinds, and throughout the day the wind will kind of just move it to where it kind of angles down towards the ground and then up to the top of your blind to where it'll have absolutely no shadow at all. We started doing that probably mid-season last year,
Yeah.
and we didn't even have to call. All we did was flag.
A lot of times we didn't have to call. We flagging them.
But it tremendously helped our hide when we kind of came up with to do that. It tremendously helped us bring in more birds, especially by the end of the season.
So 3 tips to brushing up your blind properly. There's never enough. Use the proper material for the terrain that you're in, and make sure that you reduce on the shadows. Let's move on to, kind of in that same vein. You want to make sure, obviously, you're covered, your blinds also. Now you got your blind brushed up.
Yep.
You're ready to go. You're ready to get in. We ran into a lot of sunny days last year.
Oh yeah, with especially how the weather's been the past few years.
It's been weird.
It's been hot until middle of December. Sometimes it's been 60 degrees instead of the blizzardy snow that we really want for our waterfowl hunting. It's been in the high 60s to high 50s, sometimes even in the 70s or 80s, and I mean it kind of sucks, but it's something that we have to, as waterfowl hunters, that we have to work around. And one of the big things is the reflections and the being able to hide yourself even more, because that sun will pull your body out and show you more.
And you have your face, your skin has natural oils, you have natural sheen, and so whether you notice that it shines a little bit, to them they can see that shine. Especially, if your face, you're sweating or any kind of moisture or whatever on there, they can see that. They can pick that out. They can, you see a lot of waterfowl hunters out there. They either have their face protection on there. I think, me personally, face paint is probably the best thing, because, it allows you to still expose your face and to make sure, but it also covers up that sheen of your face.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a light complected guy. So, obviously I don't ever let my head go, because, that's just a beacon for the geese to see them.
You're a lighthouse in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I'm a beacon in the middle of the field. Now in the snow, I'm not too bad. But even in the snow, that sheen off of your face makes a world of difference to make sure that that's covered up. So make sure you have a good face covering, either face paint. It's real cheap. You can go on pretty much any site that has hunting supplies on it.
Or your local Walmart or Dunham's, or your local.
Comes in a stick, $5
store.
Maybe, and there's a couple different colors, and
they'll give you you have a little circle palette and a brush that comes with it if you choose to do that. Or if you're like Dave and have a 16-year-old daughter who's got makeup, you just have her do it out of all of her makeup.
That was funny last year, by the way. We did that. Now, another thing that we're going to deal with, we talk about the sun, talk about the sun shining. Even when it's not sunny, a lot of hunters like to wear sunglasses, and it's extremely important to get the right sunglasses. You want to make sure that you don't get lenses that are going to shine.
Oh no, I mean, especially like you get the orange coated ones, or even the blue coated ones, or even the glossy, like the really shiny black ones. Kind of like my old pair of glasses that I had before I got these ones. They would be super shiny black, and it really reflects the sun to where I wouldn't even be able to look for birds, and I'd be calling for nothing, because I wouldn't know if they're there, gone, or where they're at.
And it only takes a split second for that little bit of shine to affect the way the birds are flying over, because they get that right angle coming in with the right angle of the sun. All they need is that split second of that reflection to catch it and kind of spook them away. And then then you got to get creative and start get the sunglasses off and start calling them in.
Or I mean, a lot of times you can pull them back even if they do catch just a little glimpse of that reflection, but at that point they're still super leery, and they're going to be looking 10 times harder than what they were before they were already ready to come in.
Now, we were talking a little bit earlier about non-reflective and why, and kind of elaborate on what we were what we were discussing when we were talking about that. The non-reflective surfaces.
Like shotgun shells. If you've got ice or water and ice, especially during the cold weather season, we have to get up out of the blinds to clean them up off of the decoys, or because then it's really reflective on them, and the water and stuff will actually freeze if it's cold enough to the decoy, to where it'll put a sheet of ice over it, the whole thing, to where you gotta completely wipe it off and just hope that you don't have anything left on it.
Yeah, we had an early season hunt last year on the river. We were doing some duck hunting out there. We had I'll tell you what, it seemed like we were out there brushing that snow off of those decoys.
Oh, every 5 minutes, brushing it off, dunking them in the water. And luckily it wasn't freezing. It would the decoys that we used for it.
Pretty wet stuff.
The water or the
snow?
No,
that snow that we were dealing with last year was some pretty wet stuff. But it piles up on there, and obviously they know that
normal birds won't let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, and you wish they had a decoy that would kind of shake it off, but I guess that's something that we can figure out. Maybe, who knows? Just kidding. But just going back over the proper face coverings, make sure you get the right face coverings. I use a gator.
Yeah.
Or
we both do.
We use gators. You can get. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of a day you're dealing with. I mean, if it's a nice day, I've got one of the really light ones. Yep. Camel face cover. I pull it up pull it up to my eyes and stuff. But if it's cold, you got that gator, and you can pull that up. What other kind of face coverings could you use?
I mean, they got full face fleece ones that.
Baklavas. Is that how they call that? Baklava?
I don't know. I mean, we'd have to ask someone about that one. But they even have ones especially made for us waterfowlers that actually have a little spot that opens up on the lips, and then you just got your eyes portion that's open. I mean, they're not bad and they're not expensive, but I personally don't like to use them just because, I mean, on those cold days, your nose is running, and if you don't want that sweat in there, because the second you take it off, it'll all freeze to you, the little hairs and. Or Dave's beard, or we had an instance last year on that same day that we were hunting during that crazy snowstorm that we had to keep brushing the snow off of our duck decoys when we were duck hunting that day. And by the end of the hunt, I had icicles from the top and part of my hair up here all the way down to my shoulders. And
he had a mullet.
Yeah, I had a mullet out of icicles. It was crazy, and I mean. I was just, Dave's pickup seat was completely soaked afterwards just because of it finally all started melting. But
I think you took your sweatshirt off and it looked like somebody had poured water down your back. It was an interesting day, but it was a very successful day hunting, I can tell you that much.
Walked out with 16 total.
Yep, the perfect elements. We had, it was the perfect cover. It was just a beautiful day altogether.
Oh yeah.
Then it kind of seemed like it was just warm after that the whole time. I mean, that was the first. Yeah, that was the first really cold, wet day that we got to get out there and go.
And it was the day after. It was October 24th last year, because it was the day after duck opener. Because I went with some buddies hunting on duck opener. And it was snowing then, and then it also snowed that next day when you and I went.
But, so just to kind of recap on face coverings, you want to make sure that you've got that covered. Make sure you get the right sunglasses with no glare. And you want to make sure you check your non-reflective, make sure that your surfaces are non-reflective throughout the day, because obviously, like we said, any kind of moisture or condensation or anything like that can build up. And so you got to keep, just like looking to see if a decoy fell over or something, you got to make sure that you keep on top of that stuff.
Going off of some more reflective things, calls, especially when they're around your neck. You have a couple matte calls, but you also have a shiny call. All of mine are yours
are all pretty shiny.
Well, these two aren't too bad just because I've had them for so long and they're a little worn out. But my nice and fancy Echo duck call, I absolutely love this thing. It sounds super good too, and I've even gotten Mr. Dave over here able to call a little bit with it, even though he's still learning. But
I'm not much of a caller. I just like to shoot him.
Yeah, he likes to leave that up to me, but and then I just got in the my new goose call just the other day that I've been playing around with. It is the JT. Oh shoot! I guess I
How
should
about you
flag.
flip it around, man? I know you like to look at it and everything.
It's
but
the JT calls. This is the Pearl Blue SFX, and this thing sounds absolutely phenomenal. And in my opinion, it is worth the money, and you are getting you.
Oh wow! I mean, I was like opening a Christmas present when you got that thing. It was like there was a personal note in there from the owner of JT Calls. You got a what else you get? You got a nice little carrying case, a little box that it goes into, so you can store it nicely. So yeah, I mean, go to JT Calls. They're on Instagram right now. I think they got they've got their website.
Yep, they got their website, Facebook page. I think they even have a Twitter. I don't know for sure. I know for sure they have Instagram because that's where I found them at, and that's where I started talking to them and kind of doing my research on them. But I mean, they have it's a lifetime warranty for if your call needs retuned or anything like that, and it's 25 bucks a year or something like that.
We apologize for that. We had to do a quick battery change. These things don't last that long. I really wish they did. They're really not in their element. These cameras, I think they're made for the outdoors. They're sports cameras. So here we are sitting idle in our area here, and it's getting a little warm, so we had to switch out the batteries to make sure everything was good to go there. But let's jump right back into what we were talking about. We were talking about JT calls. One of the things that I wanted to stress to everybody watching out there is, we're all on social media, we're all on YouTube. A lot of these businesses you're going to see along Instagram, Twitter, and those guys, they're small businesses. These guys are trying to make a name for themselves, and they do phenomenal work. And JT Calls is no exception. These guys, that's the first time I'd ever heard of them. I saw them on Instagram, and Zach went ahead and he ordered himself one. And man, I tell you what, you were blowing that thing last night. That sounded beautiful.
Oh yeah, I mean, you normally stick to the old cheap Buck Gardner calls, and I mean it's nothing fancy.
No offense to Buck Gardner calls,
but it was never anything. It was just one of the cheap ones at the time, and I mean I got pretty good with it. It didn't sound too bad. It seemed to do the job, so I stuck with it for the past 3 or 4 years, and I've seen JT Calls on Instagram, and I really liked how they sounded, and I really kind of like the pearl blue. Blue is by far one of my favorite colors, especially this darker blue.
I'm a red guy, but I think red in the blind probably would go over too well.
I think the blue will be kind of fine, especially this. It's got it's kind of mixed in with a black and blue swirls, kind of mixed in with the resin that he used to make the acrylic.
Kind of looks like a bowling ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the best way I can describe it. It kind of looks like the material of a bowling ball, but it's a beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful call. So big shout out there to JT Calls. He's got the sticker right here. You order one from him, get a couple of these babies here to put on your vehicle, and make sure you support JT Calls. So, there's one of them out of the way. We get good for JT Calls. Let's get into our third tip and trick for the night, and that is keeping your reflections down. Now this kind of circles back to the face coverings and stuff like that, but there's some very small detailed things that you need to understand when you're in the blind or in the lay down blinds in the pit, wherever you are. When your shells eject, what's at the bottom of that shell? Brass.
And sometimes they will eject far, and sometimes they'll eject right next to you.
And that's another thing that's not natural in the middle of a cornfield. I mean, it's just not natural there, and they reflect like anything else that's metal. So make sure, excuse me, clean up your shells, make sure they're picked up. I always used to, when we were laying there, I'd just kind of lean over and kind of try and swipe them under my my lay down blind. But that's one of the things.
Most people wouldn't think about keeping their shells picked up at all. I mean,
how many times did we go to a public land where there were shells everywhere?
Oh, like we were hunting our local public land has a cement blind made on it for the hunters and stuff, and we were hunting in it, and there was probably 50, 60 shells just sitting there, just people absolutely just not caring. And
what these are is weekend warriors. They don't hunt very often.
Yep.
They go out, they blast a few birds, and
they don't respect the land that they're on. They're strictly out there to shoot some birds, and I mean, those are, in my opinion, those are the exact same people that'll sit there and sky bust them when they're 100 yards high. And
how many times we pull up to the fence and we're like, oh great, we got to go in after these guys.
Yep.
And you know, you just know, you can see them that, you know, they don't have any respect for the land. They don't have any respect for the sport. They just, you know, they got a few hours away from their wives and kids, so they went out and killed something. And that's just not the way to approach this. You got to make sure that stuff's cleaned up. But we talk about this on all of our podcasts.
Always respecting your landowners, keeping the area that you're hunting better.
Not even just the landowners, but even the public land. I mean, it's public land.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's
for everyone else to use too. And I mean, who wants to go in and hunt somewhere with a bunch of trash everywhere that people have destroyed? If there's something built on there, like people make makeshift blinds. I mean, if it's just other people are going to want to hunt it too. Yeah, you made all the effort into making it and stuff, but it's going to be there for generations to come.
Exactly. I mean, and you know, I've been hunting for a long time, and I remember one time going into a public area and finding beer bottles all over the place, and that it just makes you cringe. So, you know, not only that's kind of a double thing here. Make sure you keep them picked up because of the shine from the brass, but also, you know, respect the land, respect the sport, because it's all part of it. And so, you know, we can't talk enough about that. Zach kind of hit on it when he was talking about his call, keeping the calls inside the blind, keep the call inside your vest, inside whatever. Make sure that call is not exposed.
Yep.
Unless you're using it.
Well, even when you're using it.
Even when you're using it, you got to keep it cupped.
If you're hunting out of a lay down blind, you got the mesh that comes over your face, but you know, try and keep it down where under the mesh part, to where it won't show or be visible at all. And then like you can always crack open your little lay down blind and just to get the sound out, but. Or if you have like a all black call or a brown call or an all wood call, or if you use a flute, like I know a lot of people still do.
Sure.
A lot of people aren't moved to these short reeds just because of how much harder they are to blow. But I mean, unless you have something like that, you really want to kind of watch it and keep them covered up. If you've got reflective silver on them or brass. Mine does have silver on it. I'm probably going to go over with it.
And most calls do. Yeah. Most calls have in that, you know, that bracket in the middle is usually a chrome color or just a metal color. Yeah, brass color. So, you know, and like I said earlier, and you know, we've talked about this while we've been out in the blind. It only takes a split second.
Yep.
I mean, it only takes a split second to get a group to completely turn, because they got their scouts in there, and those scouts are looking for everything. Those scouts see something they don't like, they're going to let the rest of the group know, and you're going to be out of another wave. So, you know, make sure everything's covered up. We talked about skin coverage, and not only your face but your hands.
Oh yeah, I mean, if your hands are hanging outside of the blind, I mean, what good is that doing you? I mean, it's pretty much saying, look here, because I mean, your hands are going to be moving. Because I mean, when you have birds coming in, you're excited.
I've done a lot of pheasant hunting in my life, and you know, you can pretty much wear what you want when you're pheasant hunting. I mean, they fly away from you. They're down on the ground. You spook them, the dog spooks them, whatever. They fly away from you. You don't have to be covered in camo for that. But when you're trying to bring birds to you, then you know, they rely on the sound, the calls, the terrain, the area, your decoy setup. They rely on all that. So you're bringing them to you. You know, therefore, you need to make sure that you're covered up and you are part of the land that you're hunting. So that
and then they can't notice anything out of
the ordinary. Yeah,
out of the ordinary. And I mean, it'll tremendously help how well your hunts are and how many birds will actually want that place just because of the decoys there. I mean, there are goose decoys that are better than some, and the newer ones are better than the older ones. But I mean, in all reality, they all work. It all just depends on how good your hide is and how good your calling and flagging is. I mean, that's what the bottom line of what it all comes down to.
My shoulder still kind of hurts from flagging.
You did.
How to get in shape?
I'll put you in the front yard and start flagging.
And that brings us back to the ice, water, condensation, anything off the decoys. That also falls into keeping the reflections down. So those are a few tips and tricks tonight. We talked about blind brushing, talked about face covering, we talked about keeping the reflections down. Zach, is there anything else, tips and tricks wise, that and this won't be our only video for tips and tricks. We got tons of them.
Yeah, this is only part one. I think we'll do probably a 3 to 5 part series of this. Probably maybe 3 or 4 tips and tricks in each one. I think the next one, this one's kind of mainly just tips. I think the next one we'll do some tricks to get some birds in.
And you know, and after watching this video, obviously subscribe to DizzyDrops Outdoors on the YouTube channel. But also, hey, we're always open to suggestions. If you want to give us something that you think that we would like to talk about on our videos, go ahead and comment in the section where you can comment about it and let us know what your tips and tricks are for this upcoming hunting season. Maybe you pick something up over the off season. Make sure maybe you pick something up last season that really worked for you. Let us know. I mean, we're not perfect, obviously.
Oh no, we'd love to try new things.
We would love to try anything new. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we talk about is for the area that we live in. Maybe you live somewhere else and something else works for you. Let us know, and make sure you put it in the comment section. You can also find us on Instagram, DizzyDrops Outdoors on Instagram, and Facebook. But check out our YouTube videos. Keep looking at our stuff. We're going to be putting a lot of these drop casts out throughout the season, so there's going to be something up all the time. Subscribe to our page, tell your friends, let everybody know. Now I think we're gonna get into some of the people that have helped us along the way here, and shout out to some of our sponsors and our friends out there that are helping us get where we're going. So let's give it a start. We're gonna start with our own family top down decoys. Bob and the crew at Top Down.
I mean, earlier today he called me out of the random. It's about an average sized decoy company. They're a top version, like a top view silhouette. They show the tops, just the tops of them, because how normal silhouettes, they show the sides and all the big ones. Well, they actually came up with a design that shows the tops, and
why not see them from the top side where the geese are seeing them from?
And I mean, they're good stuff from the side, but that's where, if you hunt only silhouettes, that's where your other silhouettes come into play. Or if you mix them, your full bodies, and I mean, it's your shells and stuff like that from when they're looking from the side. But when they're looking for above, to show that there is a really huge feed belt, especially around where your blinds are wanting to be, and where to show that it is kind of a safe haven for them to come in and land, and that they're welcome. Showing with how they are, they all look like feeders. They work tremendously well, especially in windy places. The tails kind of sit there and bob up and down.
You get just enough movement out of them that they're not overly erratic movement that might scare the geese away. They're just right. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot in the past is a good mixture of decoys. And Zach, tell the viewers and the listeners about the angles and the tricks and stuff that you can fill in your decoys to make it look like there's a whole lot more than there already is.
I mean, it's all about which angle, which way you face your decoys, and the placement of your goose uprights, of your feeders, your resters, your shells,
your fulls,
your full bodies. If you have silhouettes, it's all about the placement of where that is, and we'll definitely make sure to bring that up in the next tips and tricks video. We will definitely have that and bring it in.
We'll be getting into that throughout the season. We'll be getting it because there's different layouts for different parts of the season. You're gonna have your early season layouts, your mid-season layouts, your late season layouts. And that's one of the things we're going to show you. Hopefully we can bring you some views of some of our layouts that we put out in the field. But you know, we talked about the angles and we talked about the fill-ins and stuff like that that help. You know, if they're coming, if they're a ways out, you got your silhouettes, you got your top downs, you got your families, you got your
U shape or whatever. I mean, and you'll learn it throughout the season of what birds like more. I mean, the U shape is obviously the most common.
U's, J's, Nike swooshes. Yeah, we got all kinds of good ones out there.
I mean, we'll definitely get into it. I'll bring I'll get the papers out that I actually went through and drew a lot of them up, especially when we are guiding people. I like to visibly show them of how we are going to be setting up decoys, just because.
And explain why. I mean, there's a lot of people. We talked to a few last year that they didn't understand, which way you face them, which way the geese land, the way they take off, the wind directions and stuff like that. And we'll be getting into that throughout the season too, as far as your setups, using your wind, just the elements and how things are going out there and how you want to set things up. Yep. Let's jump back into another one of our sponsors and good friends of ours. That's Shane down at the Zone and Scottsbluff Screen Printing. Yep. Shane and Ty down there, Wilson, they do an excellent job. They are going to be responsible for some great DizzyDrops apparel and stuff coming down the road here, coming down the pike. I think we talked to him a little bit yesterday. Yep. I think we got some stuff coming out before the end of the month. Yeah,
we should have some stuff out and up on the website at DizzyDropsOutdoors.com. Make sure to go check it out and get yourself some. They're actually not priced too terrible.
No.
They're
very comparable to anything else out there.
Very comfortable shirts. We will be wearing them here soon. We are waiting for our personalized ones to get done, and we will be wearing those for you guys to check out. And make sure to check out all of our other merch that we will have. We'll have some hats, beanies, sweatshirts, stickers. We're also going to be coming out with some other stuff as we kind of move on through this season. Anything else you got for us?
No, we got a couple other ones. We want to thank, these are our unofficial sponsors we've got out there. Heavy Metal and Kent Fasteel, wherever that one's sitting up there. They're just our choice in shells. I mean, we've got federal shells here too, but I think that, we Kent Fasteel and the Heavy Metal shells,
can never go wrong with them.
You can't go wrong with them. They're a great outfit. So we go with that. Black Rifle Coffee, another unofficial sponsor, keeps us going, keeps us awake, keeps us bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning when we need it. Heck, I drink it all day long.
Oh yeah.
I got Blackbird's Delight up in the cupboard right now, and actually sounds pretty good. And let's wrap it up with Hunter Nation down here. Go check out Hunter Nation. These guys are out there for the hunters out there. They go through and they check out and make sure that these outside groups that are trying to end hunting don't get what they want. Hunter Nation is a watchdog group. They're going to keep an eye out on it. Ted Nugent's part of it. There's a lot of great people a part of it. Any legislation that goes through, Hunter Nation makes sure that your hunting rights don't get taken away from you. So make sure you check out Hunter Nation. Join them. They're just like any other group, like NRA or Ducks Unlimited or anybody like that. But these guys go, they with a fine-tooth comb, they go through legislation to make sure your hunting rights are taken care of and that you don't lose them. So check out Hunter Nation. They're the stickers right there. And Zach, anything else for tonight?
Just make sure you subscribe and like the video.
Subscribe. I can't say that too many times.
Turn on the post notifications so you know when our next tips and tricks video comes out. We'll also be coming out with a Waterfowl podcast here soon. We're getting everything currently set up and getting ready to roll with that. We should have our first episode out here soon. We're going to be filming that here in a few days. Make sure to check it out. That's where our main tips and tricks and just kind of some fun, good times will happen, and just some good overall conversations to where you can either learn stuff from, you'll be able to comment on the video and maybe give us some tips and tricks. We'll definitely be with our viewers and our listeners on YouTube and Spotify.
And look for some comic relief out there from us as well. Decoy Dave, he is roaming around. He will be making videos for you, for your entertainment, And I think, and we also got a special guest coming up here, in the not too far future. He's a special guest to us. A lot of people may not know who he is, but I guarantee you, after the next couple of years, college football will know who he is. Garrett Nelson from the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We're going to try and get him on here pretty soon, so look for that in the future as well. So there's only one more thing left to say, right?
Yep.
Load up and honker down, baby.
See you later.
See you